Let's talk about a strategy that honestly feels like a secret weapon for your writing. It turns out that by upgrading just 50 of the most common words you use, you could actually unlock a much better score on your essays. And that number? It's based on an analysis of real, high-scoring papers. So, how does it all work? Let's dive in.
You know the feeling, right? You've got these great ideas, you totally get the topic, but for some reason your essay score just will not budge. Well, a huge reason for this is often something surprisingly simple. You're probably relying on the same basic words again and again. It's a really common trap, and believe me, it holds so many students back.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to pinpoint the problem, what I'm calling the common word trap. Then we'll unlock the solution by expanding our vocabulary and see some powerful synonyms in action. We'll also cover the single biggest, and I mean biggest mistake you can make with this, which is crucial. And finally, we'll wrap up with the exact strategy that high scorers use to nail it every single time.
All right, first up, the common word trap. See, before we can even think about fixing the problem, we have to understand exactly what it is and why it's happening. Let's really look at why those simple, comfortable words we all default to might be the very thing holding you back.
Just take a look at this sentence. I mean, sure, it's grammatically correct, but can you just feel the repetition? Important, important, important. It just sounds so flat, so uninspired. It doesn't show the examiner any real depth or range. This, right here, is the trap in action.
And look, this isn't just a theory. It's exactly how an examiner sees it. This quote from our source material really just hits the nail on the head. When they see a word like people used over and over and over again, your essay starts to sound, in their words, a little bit basic. And that's no matter how brilliant your actual ideas are.
So, if that's the trap, how in the world do we escape it? Well, that brings us right to section 2. The solution isn't about memorizing a dictionary full of words you'll never use. No, it's about making a strategic upgrade to the common everyday words you're already comfortable with.
And you know what's really interesting? It's the number. An analysis of 100 real top-scoring essays found that just upgrading around 50 of the most frequently used words can make a massive, massive difference. That feels so much more manageable, right? It's a focused, achievable target.
This slide just shows the impact perfectly. It's night and day. On the left, you've got the trap, government, government, government. But on the right, you have the upgrade, the authorities, the state, policymakers. You're essentially saying the same thing, but you're instantly showing the examiner that you have range in your vocabulary, which is a huge part of your score.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but raise is also a pretty simple word. Is this really helping me that much? And the answer is a huge, definite yes. The examiner isn't just looking for a bunch of fancy, complex words. They're looking for range. By showing you can use different words accurately, even simple ones, you're proving you have a much wider vocabulary than someone who's just stuck on repeat.
Okay, enough with the theory. Let's put this into practice. It's one thing to talk about showing range, but it's a whole other thing to actually see how it can transform your writing from just, good to genuinely great. Let's look at some real examples.
Let's start with a word we are all guilty of overusing. Good. It's so vague, kind of lazy, right? But look at the alternatives. Beneficial tells us it provides an advantage. Positive sounds more direct, more academic. See how each one adds this little layer of precision that the word good just doesn't have?
Okay, here's another great one with the word children. Now, what's really important to notice on this slide is the context. You could say the youth if you're talking about young people as a collective group, but you would only use the word minors if you were talking about something in a really formal or even a legal context. They are absolutely not interchangeable. Now this right here, this is a real pro move. You can replace a single word like society with a whole phrase, like the general populace. This is such a fantastic way to show a more sophisticated command of the language. It basically signals to the examiner that you're totally comfortable with these more formal academic terms.
So this all sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But now we have to talk about the flip side, because there is a huge pitfall here. Using a synonym incorrectly can actually be more damaging to your score than just repeating a simple word. This is the single biggest mistake you can possibly make.
If you take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this: context is king. You absolutely cannot just blindly swap one word for another that you found in a thesaurus. You have to understand the precise meaning, the nuance, and the very specific situation where that new word is actually appropriate.
And here is a perfect, almost painful example from the source material of what not to do. So you look up synonyms for children, and you find toddlers. But if your essay is about teenagers and you drop in the word toddlers, you haven't shown off your advanced vocabulary. You've shown that you don't actually understand the words you're using, and that will absolutely lower your score.
And that whole toddler mistake is just one of many traps. As you can see here, you could pick a word with the wrong context, like saying traffic jams are popular when you mean common. You might use the wrong level of formality, misspell a complicated word you just crammed, or even forget that the grammar of the sentence has to change to fit the new word. Every single one of these is a red flag for an examiner.
Okay, so we've seen the power of synonyms, and we've seen the dangers of using them incorrectly. That brings us to our final and most important section, the strategy. How do high scorers learn and, more importantly, use new vocabulary correctly and confidently every single time.
The strategy really just boils down to this simple 4-step process. First, you identify a word you know you overuse. Second, you look up some alternatives. Now pause right here, because step 3 is the most critical part. Check the context. Read the definition carefully, look at multiple example sentences, and really understand the nuance. Only then should you move to step 4, which is practice. Write your own sentences using that new word. That is how you truly make it yours.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. This whole strategy is about shifting your mindset. Your goal isn't just to know more words, it's to be able to use the right words accurately and effectively. It's about building a practical, useful toolbox, not just a long list of vocabulary that you've memorized.
So, as we wrap this up, I'll leave you with a question to think about. Consider your own writing. What is that one common word you know you lean on a little too much? Which one are you going to choose to upgrade first? Because starting with just one is the first real step toward unlocking your full potential as a writer.